will call the regular school board meeting of June 18th to order. Let the record reflect all board members are present. Recognition of visitors and guests. We welcome all of you here this evening. 1.3 will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
It's on the wall over here.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
One 1.4 correspondence and recognition. I received no requests for public participation. 1.42 is recognition of students, staff, and community. We'd like to congratulate Fanuel Walday and Caleb Meyer for qualifying for the state track meet. Fanuel ran the 1600 for 21st place and the 32nd, 3200 for 18th place, and Caleb received 5th place in the high jump. We'd like to congratulate the track state participants. Present number 1.43 is presentation by Tony Hastings for the high school schedule adjustments.
Thank you for letting me share with you. I think this is first of many times in which administrators will share with you information. I will actually come back to you in December with a 25-26 revised schedule as well. We're looking to transition into more of a period schedule day. So this is step one in a transition year for this schedule. So in front of you, excuse me, you can see the transition of the number of different periods that we have during our day. We're hoping to allow it to have more periods to have classes that are either semester long or year long, and instead of a quarter or a semester long. So having some more of those core academic classes, focusing in on ninth grade, and to be successful on that. Also focusing in on some advanced EL courses so we can allow those students to have more opportunities within their schedule. So a change that's taking place for the next school year. And like I said, next December when I present again, I will present to you even a more period day for the 25-26 calendar. Any questions or feedback? I know we talked about this in instructional earlier, but I just wanted to update you that we are in a transition, and we will be, like I said, transitioning to even more of a period schedule the following school year.
Tony, how long do you think that transition is going to take? Is it going to be a couple of years, or, we're starting with this hybrid model, it's going to be updated for the next school year for the 25-26, that'll also be
I think the hybrid, this will be our transition, and I want to have a lot more periods. I'd like to still be able to have a model in which we could still have some courses where we could have a longer period of time, sometimes like a welding course or a science course that has a lab. Might need some extra time, but I am looking at transitioning more to a period day. And then that would be probably further conversation with the instructional committee and the board to discuss how that affects credits, requirements for graduation as well too. So that's coming up. Another thing that's coming up is the personal finance course that will be required for us. So that's something that we will incorporate, not this coming school year, but the following school year. And there's a couple other new state standards that we will be incorporating into classes that already exist and just make sure that they're part of that curriculum. But there are a few changes that are coming down, but those are in years to come as well too. Any other questions in regards to that?
I'm sure this was discussed in the instructional committee, but I'm on the operational committee. When it comes to timing. I know there's never a perfect time to make a transition, but given that we're only a couple of months away from the start of the school year, how is this going to impact students who are already planning on taking certain classes in the fall, teachers who are already designing curriculum, and counselors who are having to juggle all of
Yeah,
this?
this has been a process we started a while ago where we introduced this hybrid as well. So there's been input that's been given. And when we created the master schedule where all the courses fall into it, we focused in on trying to have some ninth grade to have students be more successful. Research shows that if a student is successful in their ninth grade year, the more likelihood of them graduating. So we focused in on a lot of the ninth grade courses. And again, we try to focus in on an elective or two, but also, and then focusing in on the EL, especially the advanced students. A lot of times they get kind of shoehorned into courses and they don't have the opportunity to have core classes. So we're trying to reduce the amount of EL services that they would need. So we have it in a period. So it allows them more freedom within their schedule. And that's what we're looking at the following school year too, is to have more freedom, more flexibility with a schedule. And hopefully it can help when we do have staff shortages like we have right now at the high school and be more cost effective. So again, this was our transition year coming up, and then next year having more of a period schedule.
Thanks for that explanation.
Yep. A couple other highlights real quick. Currently, not too much is going on at the high school right now. We do have our ninth grade transition program that we have teachers, Lakita Sweeney, Becca Magahi, and Mark Pronti are leading right now. So that's a nice program for our eighth coming into ninth grade, getting them kind of used to the high school and just kind of giving them a leg up for the upcoming year. Summer band, we just had another successful summer band, which just completed last week. We had 158 students participate in summer band, which is awesome. And then obviously our graduates from 2024 that you were a part of, we had 239 graduates as well. So just some of the kind of the end of the year things that were very successful and continuing on. And there's also one special ed classroom that's hosting some students right now as well. Thank you.
Mr. Hastings, just a question, Mr. Hastings, on the staff situation and the challenges of trying to have some spots filled and some optional plans as
Yeah,
we get
we
closer to summer?
have Mr. Landgard kind of gave us forewarning a couple months ago to have your plan B, C, and D in place. So we do have plans that are ready to fall back into if we are not able to staff. Currently, we're looking for obviously a math teacher, some science, some language arts, and special ed. So knowing that it is becoming more and more difficult to fill these positions. But we do have backup plans. We do have we have solid staff right now. A lot of courses are full. We just would have to, again, sit down with myself, counselors, other staff to reconfigure our master schedule and then put those students in other courses. So yeah, that's something that we would continue to work on and something that hopefully we can hire some more staff before the start of the school year. But we do have backup plans in place if that does not occur.
One other thing, I think it's worth sharing, the CEO program has a good number of kids in it.
Yep, the CEO program it was like 22 to 24 students for next year. And for those of you that don't know the CEO program, it's an entrepreneur class that is starting next school year as well. It will be during our first period. Students will have the opportunity to learn about entrepreneurship, be with a number of local businesses. I know the community has been very, very supportive and donating of funds to get this going. Obviously, they're going to have students will have the opportunity to visit a number of businesses and just have an opportunity to learn from people in the community. Obviously, our hope is to have our students be interested in coming back and learning more after they complete their post-secondary or whatever their next option is. But yes, it will be something that we are excited about having for the next school year. And again, when we get closer to the showcase. I will definitely invite the school board to see what our students completed throughout the school year.
And then too, we did talk at instructional about having a student representative on the school board here, and you're going to look
Yes,
into that
yep.
as well.
I threw it out to the student body in the early spring, just didn't have anyone that was interested. So again, right away in the fall, I will ask to see if I can find a junior and senior representative to be a part of the student representation on the school board. I believe it was very successful. Obviously, COVID hit and a lot of those things kind of went away. So, but I've been able to watch our students be able to have voice when it comes to the school board, and then you have that communication of that link directly to that student that's in the mix of what's going on. So to have that representation is something that I want to obviously have again, and we'll search for students that would be good representation of our high school on the board.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions for Tony? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
2.0 approval of agenda. 2.1 and 2.2, we have a 2.2 main agenda. We want to remove 5.5.2. And on 7.0 other business, we want to add superintendent search discussion. That goes under other business.
I move approval of both the consent and main agenda with those changes.
Second?
Motion by Lori, second by Matt to approve consent and main agendas as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 3.0 approval of minutes.
I move approval of the minutes 3.1 and 3.2.
A motion by Adam,
Second.
seconded by Tom to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. 4.0 consent agenda. Need to approve the items on the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Adam. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.0 main agenda, monthly financial overview, 5.1. Dave?
You have the revenue and expenditures report through the end of May, so we're almost to the end of our fiscal year. You can see the percentages right now show that we're quite a bit ahead on revenues compared to expenditures, but we do have all of the additional summer teacher payrolls that will show up on this during June, so it will bring it much closer back to where the budget was projected. Otherwise, things are going smoothly and there's nothing unusual.
Okay, any questions for Dave? Okay, hearing none, we'll go into 5.2. Approve annual resolution establishing a combined polling place. This is for the election.
Yeah, so the combined polling place is if you would hold a special election that's not on another election date, such as the referendum vote is on a primary election date. If you held one in February when there's not, we would utilize a combined polling place, and so there's an annual resolution that must be approved. So recommend approval of that.
I move approval of the annual resolution for a combined polling place.
A motion by Lori,
Second by Tom.
Second by Tom. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote.
Dudley.
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz.
Aye.
Ms. Judy.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Bloom.
Aye.
Mr. Schneider.
Aye.
Mr. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Your resolution carries. 5.3, approve resolution establishing dates for filing affidavits for candidacy. This is another annual one, or election year one.
Yeah, so it's really candidacy for the school board, so you need to do that.
I move approval of the resolution.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Aaron, to approve the resolution establishing dates for filing affidavits for candidacy. Any discussion?
And it's my understanding there would be 4 open seats at this point.
Right.
Right. And the timing, you have the window of time to file?
July 30th through August 13th.
So July 30th through August 13th? Okay. Thank you.
And that's a general election, so it'll be in November election, with those being elected being seated in January of 2025.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Yes.
And a second, okay.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? No, just say roll call vote.
Ms. Dudley.
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz.
Aye.
Ms. Judy.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Bloom.
Aye.
Mr. Schneider.
Aye.
Mr. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Resolution carries. 5.4, approve resolution relating to election of school board members and calling the school general election.
Another required election resolution for school board members, so recommendation is to approve it and get it move forward.
I move approval of the election for school board members and calling for the general election.
Motion by Lori,
Second.
second by Steve. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Ms. Dudley.
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz.
Aye.
Ms. Judy.
Aye.
Mr. Prince.
Aye.
Mr. Bloom.
Aye.
Mr. Schneider.
Aye.
Mr. Whitcomb.
Aye.
Resolution carries. 5.5, approve contract agreements. Discussion, or my recommendation is to approve all these with one motion. If it's up to the board.
I'll start out by making a motion to approve all items under 5.5.
I'll second that motion.
So before you go on, just so you kind of realize where things are at, one, when you have an individual agreement with somebody and you make adjustments to bring them in line, the percentages will look skewed. Likewise, if you have a very large group, the percentages aren't always. So there's some of that, and there was some realignment of positions, so that's why you're going to see some of the percentages higher than what might be the average.
Who is left? Is this everybody now? No,
Pardon me?
this isn't everybody yet.
No, we have one HR position and the MSEA groups left. MSEA is custodians, paras, and secretaries. So those 4 items to finish up.
Are
Or
we,
groups.
are we close or not? Or
Not at this time. The 1, yes. The 3, no. And our next meeting with the MSEA groups is potentially the week of July 15th.
So looking through this, I guess my question to you is there still a concern in the future of, in a couple of years, us considering looking at a budget cut? I mean, are we looking at a decline in state funding yet? I mean, a little bit of that worries me with some of these on here.
So if you remember, the legislature did pass an inflationary factor, so there is that's going to occur as part of continued additional funding. That's up to 3%. It could be 1%, could be 3%. Is there a budget concern in the future? Absolutely, particularly with continued high settlements. Some of this, when you need to do some realignment, you're still probably going to have some realigning of some positions or even some groups. And again, we've worked hard to get the insurance benefits aligned. So there's some things that are there that you have to work on. Is there going to need to be something like an operating referendum in the future? Depends on, example, if the state does not continue to fund unemployment. What the costs might be around the new legislation that start up in 26 with all the employees are seeing or paying to build up a fund, but it's the parental leave piece. What the crystal ball looks like, none of us can figure that out. If you're looking past 1 year, you're taking a shot in the dark to make sure your best guess.
Well, you know, some of these high settlements, and I'm not saying they're not deserving or trying to be that person, but if that's the route that we're going now, how in the future are we as a board going to stand ground on some of these in the future if we're heading in a direction of double-digit increases now?
Long-term double-digit increases, in my view, are not sustainable. I'll just say that. We've worked hard to keep our salaries very competitive and be at the upper level. Not necessarily the top in all areas, but the upper level. So that's been something that's gone on as a board. You've worked hard to keep very competitive salary schedule and benefits. But at this point, to give double digits, in my view, I would say you can't do that in the future. I think you're still all right where you're at and trying to work through some of these groups, but 15+% or even potentially 10+ in the future aren't affordable in my view. Not without additional revenue.
These numbers also include the insurance piece of the puzzle too.
Total cost to
Total
the
cost.
district, yes.
And what does the insurance rate go up this year?
Premiums went up 10%.
Premiums went up 10, so that's in these numbers. So it's not all salary by any means. Some of that's not the employees' control by any means. Nor ours, but.
And a lot of the higher numbers aren't groups, they're individuals, which is a much smaller gross dollar amount in the overall picture. And a lot of those had to do with putting them into a salary structure that fits with other people who are rated perhaps lower than they are and being paid more. So you have to bring them up in the pay system to get them equitable. So a lot of this is equitable balancing and other things that are going on in this too. So, and the numbers we have here, a lot of them that I think that we're looking at are individual people and not large groups that can have a much larger impact in the overall financial picture that we have compared to one or two individuals being brought up to a level that they should be at. So I'm comfortable with what we're doing to rebalance it. Hopefully by doing it now, we don't have to address these types of restructurings and stuff in the next time we go around. 2 years from now, we'll have it balanced out, and those people will be where they need to be, and then we don't have to readjust them again to get them where they should be. So we do it once now, we're in better shape for the future to be more balanced in what we do 2 years from now, a year, 2 years from now.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on the contract agreements under 5.5, and we're doing them all with one motion? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Let's see where we at now. 5.6, approve to set committed fund balance for severance to zero.
So move.
Motion by Steve,
Second, Woodboom.
second by Matt. Any discussion?
Just so you remember, this has been a long time coming. It's been at least 15 years in the making, from when there was trying to set the goal of eliminating the severance liability that existed. And this year is the year that all severance has either been paid out or eliminated based on contracts, so.
Is there a current fund balance now?
No.
There's no fund balance.
No. This is just recognizing a liability in your books,
Okay.
and now there's no liability.
Okay, any further, we have a motion?
No.
No.
Or yes, excuse me,
We do have a motion and a second.
Steve and Matt, yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.7, approved computer bid. Dave, do you get this one?
We received basically one bid, and because we pretty much specify the Dell computers that we're using throughout the district, Dell will basically give preferential treatment to a single contractor or vendor, and then that's usually our best bid. So the recommendation, I believe, is with IT Outlet. I don't have the amounts, $232,575. And those are basically all replacement laptops, mostly for the staff.
That's a normal budgeted item, right?
Budgeted through capital.
It's through capital outlay, so it's in the budget. Okay, do we have a motion?
I move approval of the computer bid.
Okay,
Yes.
motion by Laurie,
Second by Tom.
second by Tom. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.8, approve roofing bid.
This roofing bid is for the middle school rooftop replacement project that we have going, trying to use up our ESSER dollars. The 6 classrooms that were added in 2000 on the south end of the building, those roofs are now 24 years old. The rooftop units are giving us troubles, so these bids came in really good. I believe the original estimate was around 150. And the recommended bid is for Neiman Roofing for $113,000. And Neiman actually did the majority of the middle school project back in 2010. We did a good share of those roofs. So they're familiar and used to the building. So we would recommend approval.
Okay, need a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Adam,
Second.
second by Aaron to approve the bid in the amount of $113,000. Roofing bid for the middle school. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.9, approve HVAC bid.
These bids are basically for the installation, removal and installation of the units. We purchased the units through the state bid to save us a little money in sales tax. These bids also came in very good. The low bid, which we're recommending, is from GAG Sheet Metal, and it's for $47,800.
And this is at which school?
This is also at the middle school.
Middle school also.
Yeah.
The portion of the middle school are the two additions on the south end that were put on in
2,000.
2000.
Okay.
I move approval of the contract.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Adam to approve the bid in an amount of $47,800. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.10, approve write-off of uncollectible lunch account debt.
This is also recommended action. Once the state took over and basically provides free lunch to all of our students, we left everything on the books for the first year and attempted to collect some of that bad debt. I believe we collected over the year somewhere around $1,000 or a little over $1,000. We're left with $6,165.95. And going forward, until legislation changes it, the state will pick up all the meals for the students. So we're recommending to write that uncollectible balance off.
I move to approve item 510, writing off the uncollectible lunch debt.
Second.
Motion by Tom, seconded by Aaron to approve writing off the uncollectible lunch account debt. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.11, approve internship field experience agreement with Minnesota West.
This is basically like a student teaching agreement, but it's an educational assistant, and it would run through June 10th through August, I believe, 27th. So the recommendation is for approval. It's a 12-week program.
I move approval of the internship field experience with Minnesota West.
Motion by Adam,
I'll second that.
second by Lori. Any discussion? This is an ongoing thing, or,
Just
I mean, has it happened in the past? Or?
not for this, not with Minnesota West.
Oh, okay. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.12, approve extension of phased retirement account.
Yeah, and that should say accountant.
Accountant,
Yeah.
accountant, okay.
So this would be the continuing an additional 6 months of phased retirement to support our new accountant and address a couple things. One, giving the new accountant the opportunity to get through a second audit, and also to address so that it's the cleanup of the ESSER funds, so our new accountant doesn't have to learn that and deal with it. So this would be through December 31st, 2024. So the recommendation is for approval.
Then he'll be done after that.
Correct.
I move approval of the phased retirement accountant agreement.
A motion by Lori,
Second.
seconded by Adam. And this will take us through the end of the year.
Take us through the end of the calendar year.
Calendar
Yeah.
year, right. Okay, any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, a question for Mr. Landgard, and the agreement is identical to what has been used currently?
It's identical to what was the first year agreement, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.3, discussion approve a city request on Trojan sign at JPS Fieldhouse.
So this was presented to the Operation Committee. The city presented or made a request for the school district or you as board members to consider providing a sign at the JBS Fieldhouse. Minnesota West has committed to that sign. Part of that is they also provided funding and have a lease agreement with the city or JBS to utilize that. Currently, the district has been allowed to utilize it, and there's been no agreement or additional cost on our end. So with the sign, and the city is, I should say, looking to recognize and support Trojan Athletics, they would like the district to purchase the sign, and they will take care of the rest of mounting, covering the mounting and electrical. And it was adjusted in the lettering to meet our branding, so on our side, that's corrected. The cost, our cost would be $10,083.27.
I move approval of purchasing the sign for installation on the field house for the city, by the city of Worthington.
Second, Matt?
Motion by Steve, seconded by Matt to approve the request to purchase a sign. Cost of $10,083. So we own the sign technically then,
Technically, we own the sign.
and we'll be in charge of maintenance,
Yeah, probably.
okay? I
But
mean,
there's
the
no
city-
ongoing cost to have it up there. It's
No.
there and.
Right. Shouldn't be too much maintenance, but
Hopefully not.
there's always something. But no, that sounds like a good relationship with the city to help us with this. Any further discussion?
I just add, Mr. Chairman, that field house has been an amazing asset for our spring sporting kids especially, to be able to utilize that, and a lot better trying to field off a turf than off the gym floor. So I think it's a great facility that we're able to utilize, and look forward to partnering with the city for the years ahead.
Okay, any further discussion?
It does rain, Mr. Chairman, in the spring, if you noticed. So it's been good to golf indoors.
Right. Been a wet one. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.14, discussion approve of emission hybrid model, prices and activity fees of students.
So this was presented to the instructional committee, and I'll try and cover it. There's quite a few things in this. It's looking to move to a hybrid model for ticketing. So it would present the opportunity for people to use a credit card or debit card or purchase a ticket to our events early does not eliminate at this time the cash option, which has been happening across a number of school districts, including the Big South, where you have to purchase early or purchase it online. We're looking to do a hybrid. We're one of the last, I'll call third or half, that are looking at this. With that, then also in the ticketing price, the conversation, and Mr. Dale was recommending that due to the cost of utilizing the credit card or debit card option, there is a fee. To increase the fee to attend to $7 for adults and $5 for students, and the district would absorb that cost in relationship to utilizing a debit card or credit card, which is a positive at that point. There's only a few districts that are not at 7 and 5. We're one of them. I believe Laverne's the other. Most others in the conference are at 7 and 5. Likewise, then I'll continue on. It's also considering changing the activity fee to address and kind of eliminate some of the confusion that's been around it. So the recommendation is to have middle school fees at $20, $20. They were at 20 and 10 before. Ninth grade fees at $40. They were at 60 and 10 before. And fine arts for $30, they were at 30 and 15. And when I gave you the two numbers, that was full fee or free and reduced type. So the recommendation is $20 middle school, $40 for high school, and $30 for fine arts. And then to move forward with utilizing the hybrid approach to ticketing and raising the fees to $7 for adults and $5 for students. And just a reminder, our students, if they show their ID, get in free. And the cap, by the way, on the fees would be $200 per family. So recommendation is for approval.
Went to operations or didn't?
It was at the instruction
It was
committee.
instructional. Yeah, I move approval of the new hybrid model and aligning it and
Okay.
forward.
Motion by Lori,
Second.
second by Aaron to approve the recommended action. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.15, approve first reading of policies 506, student discipline, 507, corporal punishment, and prone restraint.
So want to run through this. Policy 506, there are changes that you should have received that, the blue line copies, so you know what the changes are. Most of them are related to codes and were part of MSBA's recommendation. So on policy 506, we're following the model policy. On policy 507, the corporal punishment and prone restraint, exactly the same thing. It's meeting what is in legislation. The changes were substantially, the policy substantially reflects statutory requirements. So that's that model policy. Policy 507.5 is not a required policy, and I did send it, that's the SRO policy, and I did send it to Chief Apple to review, and he basically, his feeling is the policy substantially follows the statutory requirements. He would be okay if the board passed the policy. I can tell you at this point, I don't necessarily see putting it in. I would not recommend because it's not required. That's my position, and we have not had issues. So I'm okay with that one not being in. And then there's also policy 514. I just want to update you. Most of it was statutory minor language, did not change the intent of the policy. So I made the changes and we have posted that already, so that one does not need school board approval. So I guess 516 is the policy 507.5, but the other, there's two you need to consider approving for first reading.
Okay. We need a motion on 506 and 507.
Correct.
So I so move the first reading of policy 506 and 507.
Motion by Tom,
Second, Steve.
second by Steve, to approve the first reading of policies 506 and 507. Any discussion?
So I received a copy of policy 506 and 507 in the board agenda packet, but it wasn't like blue lined. Was there another one sent after that? Or did I miss something?
I thought the blue lines were sent out, but if not, we can get you that.
Because we would be, the first reading tonight would be based on the blue lined version, right?
Correct.
Did any other board members get the blue lined version?
No.
I did not. I just saw what was in the packet.
I thought those were sent out.
So the copy we got was the
The final.
revised
Yeah,
one, yeah.
yeah. Which we can send out the blue line before you do the second reading.
So the blue lined version is just
Shows the changes.
shows the changes, but the one that was sent out is the,
Is the
like,
final.
the final version with
Correct.
the blue line changes applied. Okay.
Yep.
Because I'm cognizant of the legislative changes last year to student discipline policy, and it is, very much in conformity with this policy here. I think one of the biggest changes in terms of legislation action is that you can't expel a kid in third grade or younger. That was one of the biggest changes in legislative policy. And that says that in this student discipline policy that is in front of us today. But I think it calls into a question for discussion on like how are our schools actually dealing with these changes? There's a big difference in how you can treat a third grader having disciplinary issues and a fourth grader, but both third and fourth graders are in the intermediate school. So is there a school policy, school by school, grade by grade? How is that determined overall? And I think there might be value in having that more greatly delineated in this policy. What's in front of us today is a template. It's an MSBA template. And what we'd be adopting here is a template. It's not our own policy that is uniquely crafted to our buildings and schools' needs. For example, on page 10, there's a section in big bold and in parentheses that says, like, note to school districts, like, the following sections must be developed and inserted by each school district based upon individual district practices. So it's like a policy that includes instructions, is a template that includes instructions for how to build a policy. And I'd like to see us craft that policy given the, uniqueness of our district.
So items C through N are what was in the old policy, and we're cut and paste into the model policy. So this was what was delineated. The handbooks address some of the other things that you are discussing,
Okay.
and they're a little more clear on, the law says we don't expel anybody younger than third grade. So that's already just common knowledge. We don't always
Right.
put it in the book. It may not be common knowledge for the parents, but our administrators know that.
I feel like this policy can be cleaned up to be less template-like, remove the directions, make it a bit more specific to ISD 518, use uniform font format. And I think that there's value in when we do deal, unfortunately, with expulsions. Moving forward, I would like to see the explanation for why a student is being dismissed or expelled cite this policy here. What section of this policy gives us the basis to expel a student? I think it's really important to tie it back to the policies and just make sure that we are in conformity with not only the law, but model policy.
Okay, so this is the first reading? So I don't know what you want to do for the second reading, but we'll have to approve the first one now, correct? And if you want some additional information or clarification
I think it's
for the second reading, I'm
it's
saying.
mostly formatting. I don't have any major substantive critiques other than, encouraging administration to have a discussion on whether or not we would want to make this policy more specific to our district in terms of whether there's going to be different approaches taken at different levels of students in the district. But I feel like that can be a separate discussion outside of the first reading of this policy.
Okay.
We'll just take it back to the administrative team for review and discussion and potential addition of more specifics. I'll give it back to the principals.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
And then with the suggestion, and it always happens, that the handbook then is updated every year as well to,
You will see those in July.
you'll see it in the handbook, the changes as well.
okay, any further discussion on policies 506 and 507? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5.16 is discussion of policy 507.5.
So again, I did send this policy to Chief Apple for review. His response was it does follow statutory language. He did not see a problem with it. I don't see a problem with the policy if you want to implement it, but it is not a required policy. And when it comes to not required policies, I'm not necessarily in favor of putting them in place. So my recommendation would not, just not address it and not put it in place. But we had a conversation at the instructional committee, so that's your decision whether you want this policy or not.
Mr. Chairman, a question for Mr. Landgard. Is there just criteria that was developed between police and the district when the resource officer entered the district, or what grounds are they following for operating? Is that just purely the financial agreement is separate than operating?
I mean, basically, you're right. There's the financial side of it and then the expectation of what the officers do. And we have a conversation every year of the officers' roles, responsibilities, and what they do.
And is that a written policy?
That is not.
That's just a verbal
It's a
discussion.
verbal conversation.
So there isn't anything in the instructional committee meeting minutes about this topic. So could someone from the instructional committee just touch briefly upon how the committee feels about including or not including this policy?
We discussed it, and it was suggested to talk with the chief about it,
Okay.
and then to get his reaction as to how it fit, in his opinion. So
Nice. Okay.
that was about our,
Right, we
length
did
of our
not
discussion.
have it written in front of
right,
us.
we did not have this copy.
We did not. So we can certainly bring it back to instructional now that we have the copy and we have the chief's recommendation for it, or we can move it on here. It's kind of what the board feels, what the board wants to do.
I think for as long as there are school resource officers present in our district, it would be good to have a policy outlining their role. So I would be supportive of including a policy 507.5 on school resource officers.
I would agree with that, too.
John, how long has this policy been in place? We've had this.
This is new because it's based on the whole legislative action, not this round, the time before. And a lot of schools, if you remember, lost their SRO or they were eliminated, so there was this whole confrontation that went on, or frustration, however you term it. And so that's why it was put together. And the legislature this round did make some legislative changes, and a lot of the school districts that had SROs now have them back as well.
I appreciate the policy, but I think it's more important that there's a little bit more written expectations for those individuals, and beyond just a verbal expectation between chief and superintendent. But that it could potentially be part of the bigger understanding of what we're doing.
I feel if there was a policy, if there ever was an incident, it'd be more easier to settle if there's a policy that should have been followed or not followed.
So you want to send it back to instructional or what?
That'd probably be best at this time.
Okay, that'd be my recommendation. Let's send it back to the instructional and get it in front of us and look through it again in depth.
Then you
This
can
is a
make
discussion item.
recommendations the next meeting, probably.
Does this also require 2 hearings, Mr. Langard?
This would, because it's a brand-new policy, yes.
So the next reading would be the first reading if you adopt it, if you come with a policy.
Yeah.
Be the first reading, so. Okay, we'll send it back to instructional. Any other items on the main agenda? See any? We'll go on to reports.
Just want to
On-
kind of highlight a couple things. One, you did get the communication look ahead for the referendum, so that should be there. I sent it out because when I run copies, that week schedule is pretty hard to read. So you can take a look at that. Also, we did finally get everything taken care of for the cooperative agreement for gymnastics with Adrian and Huron Lake Okabena. Want to just at least highlight, we'll be providing some, at the next operations committee, some long-term projection, looking at that kind of quick moment financial stuff. And the last one, I just want to highlight, Mr. Morphy brought this in to me. It's from the 1960s. I got to think about this, 62. It was school property when the school owned the new 9 on the golf course, all the way, the college, I should look at the date, 74 is when on this publication, all the way down to the lake, basically. So Minnesota West was school owned. There was 160 acres at one point in time the school owned there. And part of the agreement with Minnesota West, there was actually a lease agreement established for over $900,000. And back in that time, that's a pretty big number. Anyway, It's interesting reading, it's interesting looking over that, but to have owned 160 acres that went basically from Oxford, where the middle school is, all the way down, and Lakeshore Front was very forward-looking for the school board way back then, and it was a big investment. And then, of course, to actually sell off some of that for housing or to the golf course and some of those things. Lot prices were different when they sold them. Now, when you talk lot prices, you're probably talking anywhere from $30,000 to $80,000, where lot prices back then were anywhere from $1,400 to $3,000. So just to kind of give you a little idea of what's there, but it's kind of a documentation of that time and that era of when things were done. This was put together in '70s, but the overall property and selling of property occurred in the early 60s. So I'll have it in my office if anybody wants. You can't take it out of my office, I'm not giving it up, but you can sure come in and take a look. That's it.
That's it? Okay, thank you, John. Instructional Committee?
Could I ask a question or two of Mr. Landgard first, Mr. Chairman? On the community garden with our master gardeners, did we find a place for them to garden?
Yes, it's basically west of the storage facility out there, between the storage facility and the pond. That's what was designated.
Any update on the city collaborative arena project?
I have no new information. Don't know where they're at. I know they're moving forward, there's planning, but I have not gotten an update.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for John? Okay, we'll go into Instructional Committee.
Everything's been covered.
Okay, thank you. Operations?
I think everything has been covered.
Okay, thank you. Any other reports? 7.0 other business. We wanted to have a little discussion about the superintendent search in the future and how we're going to proceed. So it just brought to my attention, they wanted some open discussion about it. So there's nothing have to be finalized tonight, but just kind of how we're going to proceed and kind of a timetable to talk about. So it's just open for discussion.
First question I guess I would have is what's a good time to begin the process? You know, I don't know how far out in advance we want to go to try and have somebody lined up so we know where we stand, they would know where they stand, and we can move forward. I think the summer might be a little bit early, you know, to do that and stuff, but I don't think we want to wait till spring next year either. No matter which way we go with it and stuff, I don't know how long the process might take to go through either. I know that superintendents are a little more difficult to find. You know, the numbers of people out there that might be looking or qualified for that might not be as great as what there was in the past. So I think maybe, you know, I don't think we necessarily would want to go in the summertime, but I think we probably want to get it going fairly early, maybe before Christmas or something, to know where we stand on that.
Is it totally led by the board, or would you make a smaller committee? How do we engage teachers and community people? I think that's the important part of the process.
Well, there hasn't been one for 20 years,
Right.
so you might want to call Gordon Moore, because he did
Okay.
it last time.
All right.
I feel like we need to have a work session with the board to decide if we're going to use MSBA and use them and hire them to help us with the superintendent search, or just what that's going to look like, or a smaller committee of us, or the chair of the board's going to move it forward, or just kind of what all of us are thinking.
I believe we need to have a process to set the schedule and how to proceed. I don't recall the last time very clearly how we did it, do you?
I was new on the board right then. I wasn't part of it. I came when John came.
We had board members involved, we have staff, some staff members involved, and a couple of community members involved. We had a committee of, what was it, 10, 12?
Yeah, I believe we broke down into different groups and did interviews at,
Right.
through different groups or different perspectives and stuff, so.
It's been 20 years, so.
Well, MSBA, if we were to use them, might have an idea too, what they might recommend a good process to do. They've done enough of these around the state where that might be going, but I think maybe, like I say, make a work session this summer, maybe July or August or something might be a good time to get together and do a work session, have some discussions about potential candidates and timeframe.
A timetable for this, to have one superintendent, picked out, is what appropriate would be what month? I mean, in your past experience, is it like March or, a
Typically, March would be late,
be late? I mean, when you want to have one identified.
yes.
So I mean,
That,
Well,
I
with
would
all
say
the
February.
school board candidacies, and obviously we might be looking at a new chairman, are we gonna use this board to try and do it before all that takes place, or how are we gonna factor that into this?
I don't know,
There could be a lot of change here. So how do we,
yeah.
Well, it's my recollection too, because when I started, we had an interim superintendent for, I don't know, was that a year? I'm not sure how long we had that interim superintendent before John. It was a short time, so we didn't have John right away. So,
We have MSBA at the work session, just give
you could,
discussion.
you could ask them to come. You could ask, there are a couple different firms that are out there, and the only other decision is if you want to do it totally yourself, which there are districts that do that, but it puts a bigger workload on everybody. So,
But I guess I don't mean to use MSBA as our leader, but at least give us some
Guidance.
starting, yeah. Not the guaranteed we're using them for anything other than,
is there other districts that aren't that far away that have hired new superintendents that maybe we could reach out to their administration team just to get some ideas from them of what they did? Is there?
well, there's been on the average anywhere from 60 to as high as 85 searches conducted over the last 6 or 7 years. So, like I said, there's different firms that have been utilized, and some firms do more of a national search approach, while others do more of an in-state type approach. They still get what I'll call regional applicants. So, I mean, the timeline you might want to think about, and by no means, I'm not putting my fingers in this at all, so this is you guys. You probably want to look at an August, September work session and probably kind of set your direction by November at the latest, and probably do interviews no later than January, early February.
I think,
I-
go ahead.
Okay. I think that this board should get the process set up and ready to go. I think Adam's got a good point and stuff, the decision-making part of it would be then handled by, after the first of the year, and that would be by the board, but we get everything put together for that to happen. So if you got new board members coming in, we really don't want to, depending on who's on the board, we don't want to stick them with coming in and being new and trying to get this all worked out in that time period. That's why I think it's important for us to get everything lined up and set up, and then it's just a matter of starting and finishing the process with the new board and go that route.
I think the sooner the better. I think it's good if I'm glad we're having this conversation today, and I think that, one of the first big decisions that we make as a board is, do we want outside support? in helping us navigate this process. And if we can come to consensus on that, then some people, some of us or others, can explore like what options are out there. You know, there's MSBA, there are a few other firms, you know, looking into the costs for doing a regional search versus a national search, and then, you know, coming together to kind of discuss those options, I think might be, you know, a route we could go. We've got a busy August, board, and there's a lot going on leading up to November as well. And so I think we, you know, in my mind, there's no reason to wait on exploring options for outside support. I think a district our size, it's common to utilize experts in how to navigate this, and so I would highly encourage the board to explore what kind of resources could be available to us as we move through this process.
Okay, any further discussion? This is just a discussion item, but
I think the biggest thing is when we want to do a work session so we can start thinking about some of this stuff.
July,
You know, do it in July.
early July.
I agree.
you want to start the process in July for
Work session
work session.
with MSBA invited.
So you want to do it before the monthly board meeting then, when you start?
I'd say throw out some dates and see what works for the majority.
Okay, you want to find some dates that might work, Lisa, for a work session? Does that sound all right?
Yes.
Get the process started? Okay. Any other discussion on that? Okay, any other future business? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the regular board